Here we go, y'all. This is Riff coming to you. It's Friday, November 22nd. I'm going to hit you with a little bit of 10 spot because my boy Raph went off the reservation, I believe, in talking about how America is the police of the world and why we need to be. First of all, let me just tell you this. I agree with one point that he made, and that is very simple. That, yes, we need rapid response throughout the world. We need bases in strategic areas to make sure that our allies are taken care of, to make sure that they have support when they need it as quickly as they need it. I agree with that. What I don't agree with is the stance that America is the greatest country on the face of the earth. I am an American, fully fledged, obviously, born here, raised here, love this country to death, but I am not of the mindset that we are the end all and be all of everything. I mean, this country is great, no doubt. This country offers mad opportunities, awesome opportunities, unlimited potential for everybody. Yes, it does. But this country also sticks its nose where it doesn't belong. He mentioned that we needed a buffer zone to keep ourselves, separated from our enemies, and these bases and these military conflicts we enter are considered our buffer zone to keep us back from the fray, so to speak. That is correct in a sense, but it's incorrect in another, because our buffer zone is down to hundreds of miles. It's not down to across the Atlantic or the Pacific. It's not further south than Central America, and it's not further north, further north than Canada. And that was proven on September 11th. 9/11. Our buffer zone was down to a few hundred miles from New York, a few hundred miles from Washington, D.C., a few hundred miles from that field in Pennsylvania. The fact that the United States feels that they need to be the police of the world is evident in only one thing, and that's the conceited cockiness of Americans. We go to other countries, Europe, the Caribbean, South America, Australia, China, Asia. We go to these countries, and when we arrive as guests in these countries, like travelers, we all of a sudden put on an air of invincibility. We're American. We can do whatever we want. We can come here and, he mentioned, I'm a military man. I can come into your country and I can rape your women and I can drunk drive and kill somebody because I'm an American. It's allowed. It's bullshit. Come on. It's bullshit. When we leave our shores and we go elsewhere and we set up shop in somebody else's country that they didn't ask us to be there for, we've infringed on their rights. Bottom line. Yes, we like to be close to our allies to make sure that if something happens, if there's a conflict, we can get there quickly. Yes, that is one of our greatest powers. Our military is the best military in the world times 10. Like, literally, if we stop developing weapons right now, we will still be more advanced than the next nearest competitor for the next 20 years. Okay? Our military is not the issue. Our military is not the problem. Our problem is these politicians seemingly thinking that the only way that we secure our freedom is by setting up shop and policing the rest of the world. Syria is not our ally. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. Syria is not our friend. Syria does not like us. They could care less what happens to us. Syria is not our ally. So you know what we need to do with Syria? Leave them to their own devices. If their leaders want to eliminate their citizens by genocide, go right ahead. And that's cynical. That's cold-hearted. But you know what? The rest of the world is ruthless. The United States, we're pussies. We are. You want to dominate the world by increasing your presence is a pussy move. You should be so strong with the military that you have that you can eliminate a lot of your presence in the world and just keep a very shadowy type presence with a base here, an embassy there, and you will still carry the same weight. We don't need to dump 20,000 men and women in a region that only has 10 or 15,000 citizens to prove that we're the best in the world. We don't have to do that, but we do it anyway. We don't have to pay Pakistan and Turkey and Afghanistan and all these countries we give aid to in the billions of dollars to keep our interests in line, but we do anyway. And what happens? They still go behind our back and harbor fugitives and terrorists that come into our country and suicide bomb us, ram our buildings with airplanes, and crash into fields, killing hundreds of people. So, if you're talking about throwing good money after bad, that's probably the best example. But my very, very basic point is the United States needs to be concerned about our interests here. We're so concerned about what is going on in the rest of the world, being the police or the big brother or whatever you want to call it, when we have more issues here at home. Do you know that if we take care of our veterans here in this country to the tune of the way we take care of our congressmen and our senators and our other politicians, if we take care of our veterans on that level, first of all, we will improve quality of life for a lot of people. But second of all, our strength in numbers will increase tenfold because you will have the loyalty that you rightfully deserve from the veterans that are here in this country that are suffering right now. We're so concerned with oil in the Middle East and China being a power and Russia being a power that we feel we need to dominate and surround Russia with so many military personnel. You think we're back in the Cold War. Let's think about this for a second. The United States has enemies. We will always have enemies. China will always hate us. They will always try to do what they can to make money off of us, to infiltrate our cyber network, to do whatever they can to diminish our standing. Russia will always be our enemy. They will always do what they want to try and damage our economy, to try and hurt our elections. They will do it all the time. There is nothing we can do about that. Until Russia until Russia actually starts steaming towards our nation with the idea of taking us over, we don't need to be blocking and boxing him in. Putin, I'm saying. We don't need to be boxing Putin in, letting him know that we're here. He already knows we're there. Our presence is well known. Let's get off of that. China is the same thing. North Korea is the same thing. Syria is the same thing. You know, these people already know what our power and our might is. You say that you want to dominate the world with our presence so we can have a rapid response and help our allies. I agree with that. I agree with bases and carrier fleets and divisions of men and women and air bases and embassies are important around the world, yes. But what is not important is when there's a conflict in another country and they've got an issue with their cousins across the border, the only thing we need to do is sit back and watch and make sure they don't come this direction. We don't need to dip our shoulder into that. We don't need to dip into somebody else's conflict. Leave them the fuck alone and let them do what they got to do. And if they eliminate each other, well, you know what? That's just more real estate. Yeah, somebody can go in and take over. This vacuum about pulling everybody out of the one area and then ISIS or Al-Qaeda is going to come in the vacuum and take over and then we're going to have a worse problem than before. Bullshit. They're already out there. The only thing is we just don't know where they are. The vacuum is not needed, is not being created. The situation is already there. This country is not the shining city on the hill. It is not 1,000 lights. It is not what everybody wants. It's not jealousy. The only reason why people hate Americans is because we constantly stick our nose in their business. I would hate you too if you kept bugging me and telling me how to live my life. I don't want democracy if I don't want democracy. Unless I reached out to you and said, I want to have our political system like yours. Why don't you come over and help us? Stay the fuck out of my business. Quit being a police. This is not a police state. Handle our business here at home. That makes us stronger from the home front, and then we don't have to worry about being a cop. Besides, cops aren't all that cool anyway.